The dust motes danced in the afternoon sun, the only movement in the quiet house. It had been 3 years since Sarah left, and every corner of our home still whispered her name. I'd spent those years trying to piece myself back together, trying to understand what went so wrong. Today, driven by a sudden, inexplicable urge, I found myself in the attic, surrounded by boxes of her belongings, things she'd left behind in her hurry to start a new life. There, tucked away in a dusty hatbox, was a small, leather-bound journal, her diary. My heart hammered against my ribs. I knew I shouldn't, but my fingers, seemingly with a will of their own, untied the faded ribbon. The first entry was dated a few months before our 5th anniversary. Her familiar, elegant script filled the page. "John is so good to me," she wrote. "He surprised me with a weekend trip to the coast, just like our honeymoon. He remembers everything. Why do I feel this emptiness? It's like I'm watching my own life from behind a pane of glass." A cold knot formed in my stomach. I remembered that trip. I had been so happy, so sure that we were perfectly in sync. I thought she was happy too. How could I have been so blind? I kept reading, turning page after page. Her entries became a chronicle of our lives, but seen through a lens I never knew existed. She wrote about the dinner parties where I'd tell a funny story, and she'd smile, but inside she was screaming. "Everyone thinks we're the perfect couple," one entry read. "They see John, the devoted husband, and me, the happy wife. If only they knew how lonely I feel, even when he's holding my hand." Each word was a tiny, sharp jab to my heart. This wasn't the Sarah I knew. The Sarah I knew laughed at my dumb jokes and held my hand because she wanted to, not because it was part of a performance. Then a new name appeared. Mark. He was a colleague from her new job. At first the entries were innocent. "Mark made me laugh today." A real deep belly laugh. I'd forgotten what that felt like. But soon the tone shifted. "We had coffee after work. We talked for hours. He just gets me. He sees the person I am, not the person everyone expects me to be." I felt a wave of nausea. I remembered her talking about Mark, mentioning him casually. I'd encouraged the friendship, thinking it was good for her to have work friends. I was such a fool. The coffee meetings turned into lunches, the lunches into late-night phone calls. I was working late most nights then, trying to secure a promotion I thought would make her proud, a promotion that would give us a better life. All the while, she was building a different life, one without me. The diary entry that broke me was a simple one. "Mark kissed me today. In the rain, just like in the movies. And for the first time in years, I felt alive. I didn't pull away. I didn't want to." The book slipped from my trembling hands. The room spun. The image of Sarah, my Sarah, kissing another man. It was a physical blow. I forced myself to pick it up again. I had to know. The subsequent pages were filled with their secret moments, their stolen afternoons. She wrote about his touch, his words, the way he looked at her. It was a love story, just not ours. She was falling in love while I was blissfully unaware, buying her anniversary gifts and planning our future. She wrote about the guilt, how it ate at her. I look at John, and all I see is his kindness, his trust, and it's like a knife in my chest. How can I be doing this to him? But then I see Mark, and I can't breathe. I can't stop this. The entries chronicled her internal war. "She loved me," she wrote, "but she wasn't in love with me anymore. She saw me as a brother, a best friend. With Mark, she felt a passion she thought had died forever." The words blurred through my tears. I wasn't just a husband who had been cheated on. I was a man who had failed to see his own wife's desperate unhappiness. I had provided for her, cared for her, but I hadn't truly seen her. I hadn't heard the silence behind her smiles. The final entry was written the day she left. "I have to tell him tonight. I can't live this lie anymore. It's not fair to John, and it's not fair to Mark. My bag is packed. This will be the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I'm destroying the kindest man I've ever known, and I will have to live with that forever. I hope one day he can forgive me." She never told me about Mark. She just said she was unhappy and needed to leave. I begged her to stay, to try counseling, anything. But her eyes were distant. Now I knew why. She had already left me months before she walked out the door. I closed the diary and sat there in the attic's silence, the setting sun casting long shadows around me. The anger I expected to feel was there, a hot coal in my gut. But beneath it was a profound, aching sadness. Not just for my own loss, but for hers. For the pain she must have been in, to hide so much of herself away in the pages of a secret book. The diary didn't excuse what she did. The betrayal still cut deeper than I could have imagined. But it gave me something I hadn't had for 3 years. A glimpse of the truth. It wasn't a simple story of a cheating wife. It was a story of a lost woman, a blind husband, and a love that had quietly, tragically, faded into nothing. The truth didn't heal the wound, but it cleaned it. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally start to stitch it closed. The house was still quiet, but it was no longer haunted by questions. It was just an empty house, waiting for me to start filling it with my own life again. Thank you for being here with me through this story. If you've ever felt lost in a relationship, or on the other side of a difficult truth, know that you are not alone. Sometimes understanding is the first step toward healing. If you found this story meaningful, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot. Until next time, take care.